Episode 11 Versions and Feathers. Henry Wu, Sarah and Tim enter the worker building at an office where Dr. Gerald Jerry Harding, 66 years old, looks up from his book on the desk he was sitting behind. With not too much daylight shining through two small windows on one side, the room is lighted by TL lights hanging from the ceiling. Jerry Harding looks sad and tired, but at the sight of Sarah he lights up a little.
Ah, Sarah, my dear, how are you? I'm so happy to see you.
Happy to see you too, Dad. Jess says hi.
They hug each other warmly.
Jerry, you may remember Tim Murphy, Hammond's grandson?
Tim walks towards Jerry Harding and they shake hands. Yeah, we met at a trike. Beautiful creature, even though she was sick.
Ah, yes. My, you're all grown up now.
Did you ever find out what was wrong with her?
Well, yes. Dr. Sattler and I believed she had swallowed the berries we found whenever she needed to renew her gastroliths or stomach stones. That would also explain the periodic return of their illnesses.
But our issues here are more complicated than berries, I'm afraid. Come on, let's see the animals. But I must warn you, you may not like what you are about to see.
They follow Henry Wu to the next room, through another door on the far end of the office, which leads to a short, soundproofed hallway, just large enough for this group of four. The other end of the short hallway leads into another gloomy room with a lot of noises, chittering grunts and heavy breathing. Animals. They walk through the room, walking past the cages, in which mostly small or young animals are kept. 6 consanguinates, 2 young Pachycephalosaurus, 2 young Triceratops, 6 young Gallimimus, and 1 wounded young Stegosaurus. Another flash of memory passes through Sarah's mind. She stops and looks inside the cage, crouched down on her knees. A strong sense of sadness fills her, feeling sorry for the animal.
They're sick, and we're trying to find the cure.
They walk past another cage, which at first sight to Tim seemed empty. But then he notices the greenish glow of cat-like eyes at the far end staring back at him. Hearing a sound like that of a purring cat or a soft snarl, he leans in closer. Then a brown young velociraptor jumps forward and slams against the front of the cage. Startled, Tim falls back on his butt, scrambling backwards. You're keeping velociraptors in here?
Don't worry, Tim, this one's still young. 6 months. We need to examine them too.
Is it sick too?
No, strangely enough, this version of raptor is the only one that remains unaffected by the prion disease so far, which is why we need to examine them too. See if we can find out what makes them immune.
This version?
The original line, the ones we deployed on Nubla. Because of their aggression, we moved them to an unattractive pen. So, backed up by Muldoon, John gave me the green light to create a less aggressive version to replace them. And we succeeded. But just before we evacuated, we noticed a side effect, an even higher intellect.
So, you have another version of velociraptors, even smarter?
Yes, and less aggressive, Tim. But as it turned out, that version is also vulnerable to the prion disease, while our first is still immune.
Have you made many different versions of the other dinosaurs as well?
Yes, of course. Most of the first batches simply didn't contain any life at all.
This sparks a scientific question in Tim's mind. I recently read in National Geographic of dinosaurs possibly being feathered. It reminded me of Dr. Grant suggesting they turned into birds, but we have proof right here they didn't have feathers, right? Tim turns shaken to look at the cage, missing to see that Henry Wu turns uncomfortable, thinking for a moment before he decides on the answer to give.
You must understand that during the late 80s, there was no question about feathers. Dinosaurs didn't have them. Any form of plumage could have been caused by adding the wrong DNA to fill in sequence gaps. We never saved failed attempts to create life once we succeeded with the species, and we don't...
Starting to say they don't know for sure the outcome of this new debate, he stopped, thinking he probably had said enough, if not too much already. Sarah, who did notice Wu's uncomfortable moment, cuts in while Henry pauses.
So, you're saying they did have feathers?
I'm simply saying none of our viable embryos ever did. But let me walk you to your quarters for the weekend. You would probably like to get refreshed after your long journey.
Sarah nods, understanding this will be all they'll get about this subject, and Tim is eager to leave the presence of velociraptors too, young as they may be. With one last look back at the cages, he is the first to follow Dr. Wu through the door at the back of the animal quarters, leading outside, where Henry Wu continues his explanation as they walk towards another building, the lodge.
The animals are still engineered, created from old dinosaur DNA, and that of contemporary species of lizards, birds, amphibians. So you make a few mistakes, one of which could be the disease we're battling here now, but I'm confident the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park are close to the real thing.
Not leaving long silences to avoid interruption, Wu continues speaking, remembering.
Ha! The party we threw when our first egg hatched, the Parasaurolophus. Beautiful. Even so, she only got to live for a few weeks. But it really encouraged us. We'd achieved the impossible, recreating a living organism which had been extinct for millions of years. Did you know we're actually close now to getting DNA from preserved dinosaur bones? That way it'll be possible to target specific species, like, for example, more marine animals.
Marine animals?
Did that Parasaurolophus die from the disease you said you were battling?
Who's to say? I'm not really sure for her, our first. The raptors were actually the first to survive infancy. We did discover a few bugs later on, some larger sauropods. An illness causing early death. Things messed up with the intestines. Some of the compies got infected by some kind of rabies. Dental issues with the T-Rex. You wouldn't believe the issues we had to solve, sometimes using methods that might be considered controversial. But what would you expect with a new species from an old world? Of course, we would get to deal with extreme challenges. Some solutions may even benefit ourselves, albeit somewhere in the future. And when traces of the disease were found on that girl that got bitten, we had to step in.
Girl?
What girl?
In 97, that girl? You mean that little girl got infected?
I'm sorry, I should have known Mr. Masrani would not have told you about what we're doing here exactly.
No, he did not.
Tim shakes his head to confirm he also doesn't know too much.
Then let me explain what we eat.
In the meantime, they arrived at the lodge building.
Lunch should be ready in about 30 minutes in the break room. You can refresh here first.
Wanting to know more, but also happy to be able to refresh, they accepted. Wu showed them the doors to their simple quarters for the weekend, none of which could be locked. And after showing them the way to the break room, where he'd meet them in half an hour's time, Wu parted ways with them.